Our paper today is called Victims or Attackers, Deconstructing the Image of Migrants at the Romanian-Serbian-Hungarian Border in Romanian and British Media. The present research aims to find out to what extent journalistic materials influence public opinion and what are the ways of portraying people who have arrived at the border between the three states in their attempt to travel further to the countries of Western Europe. We used content analysis on some communication products in mass media from Great Britain and Romania, because we wanted to see the way this phenomenon is framed by media. A key aspect of this investigation was the wave of refugees that came from Ukraine as a result of the armed conflict in this country. In their case, digital ethnography provided interesting data for a comparative analysis of the way they are portrayed in British and Romanian media in contrast with other types of migrants. The comparative analysis was conducted by using data provided by Dchipher Analytics for the British media and the ZeList Monitor for Romanian media, thus ensuring a high degree of confidence in the results. Well, according to the data provided by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, at the end of 2021, more than 89 million people in the world had been forced to leave their homes, of which 21 million were refugees. At the end of 2022, more than 100 million people were predicted to be displaced for various reasons, the number of refugees being again very, very high. In the period we analyzed, the migration phenomenon, the increase in the flow of migrants, could be observed both at the border between Serbia and Romania and at the border between Romania and Hungary. An important observation that needs to be taken into account is the fact that the peak of the media interest in both of these countries was reached in February 2022 when the war in Ukraine broke out, with tens of thousands of people crossing the border daily. Journalists became very active. Original content emerged with numerous articles from the field and interviews with refugees, a fact that is not common when reporting on migration, generally speaking. So we wanted to see if there is a difference of framing these two subjects from a journalistic point of view. So we had three main research questions. How are they represented in the media, all these hundreds of thousands of people crossing the borders? Are they presented neutrally? Are they presented as victims or as attackers? Are there any differences in perception influenced maybe by the social political context of the time? Are there differences in representation influenced by the migrants' countries of origin? So let's see firstly, who are the people behind these big numbers? So we identified two types of incomers at the borders of Romania, Hungary, and Bulgaria, depending on the cause of their fleeing: migrants and refugees. So migrants were mainly non-Christian religion, Islam, or from African cultures. They had a lack of adherence to moral religious values in the countries of migration. They fled their countries mainly for economical reasons. On the other part, refugees are mostly Christians that adhere to European moral and social values. They come from a relatively compact social environment, like Ukraine, and they fled their countries for safety reasons. So this is their profile, and their profile proved to be an important aspect that influenced the way that they are portrayed in the media. So our analysis consisted of both qualitative and quantitative methods, and we used, of course, besides observation and content analysis, two specific data collection instruments. We needed to analyze the content produced by the media in Romania and the media in Great Britain as a representative media for European countries. So we chose to work with ZeList for Romanian media and Dchipher for the British media. For Romania, for Romanian media, we, as I said earlier, we use the list monitor to measure the frequency of different keywords in the online media, content and social media posts in the last 2 years. So from 2021 till the end of 2022. Because we wanted to have this comparative analysis, we analyzed the frequency of the two terms migrant and refugee. So what we observed as a result of our content analysis and data collection, in 2021, the word migrant had 23,953 appearances, mainly in the press. The other were on television, radio, and on social media. In 2022, the frequency decreased in the press because what happened, Ukraine war had started. So the press no longer approached the subject of migrants, but of refugees. As we can see, while in 2021 the word refugee was mentioned only 17,998 times, in 2022 the numbers totally increased. The term appeared 179,508 times, the most appearances being in the press. So the war in Ukraine totally changed the interest, increased the interest of the press towards the subject of migration, although, as previously said, it was not a new subject. There already had been a huge amount of people at the border of our countries, but until the war of Ukraine, the subject was somehow in the shadows. So let's see comparative sentiment analysis in Romanian media. In these 2 years, we analyzed for refugees. You see, in 2021, there were more negative mentions than positive. Then there was a period of neutral reports, and then the positive mention increased because there was a lot of empathy towards these people. Migrant mentions, on the other hand, in 2021, there was less positive mentions than in 2022. The neutral messages were at the same level, and the negative ones increased in 2021 in comparison with 2022. As far as the British media is concerned, we use Dchipher to measure the frequency of different keywords in the online media content and social media posts for the same period of time, so 2021, 2022. We analyzed 1,000 press articles filtered by the terms migrants, refugees, Hungary, migrant refugees Serbia, and migrant refugees Romania. Most of the content seem to approach this subject from a political perspective, which is something rather new in comparison with the Romanian media, where was this wave of empathy and very emotional reporting on refugees. So this was a political perspective either in relation to the military conflict in Ukraine or the pressures that this big phenomenon put on the rest of the European countries. Most of the articles focused on migration in the context of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Um, and it it could be observed a discourse that was loaded with a negative rhetoric, characterized by the presence of alarmist conflicting terms or by an over dramatization of current events or facts. This is the sentiment analysis for migrants and refugees mentions in the British online media. As you can see here, is mainly a negative rhetoric. So there were more negative mentions concerning risks, danger, the economical impact, so on and so forth. Then there were the positive messages, and even with smaller presence, the neutral ones. We also extracted the word map of the content published by the British media on migration. So the more the bigger the frequency of the term is, the bigger is the typography here in the picture. As you can see, there are all kinds of words highlighted like victory, Hungarian, European, ideology, immigration, China. There was a very strong political discourse in the British media related to migration. So our main observation were that there were three trends in reporting content related to migration. The politicization of information by reference to the leaders of the countries, like Orban, Macron, Putin, the dramatizing of content by using emotionally charged terms and titles, and the alarming of the audience by invoking uncertainties or potential dangers regarding the evolution of the migration wave in European countries. So it was a more broader perspective of this phenomenon, and there wasn't such a big difference as in Romanian media between portraying refugees and migrants. So, as a conclusion, our analysis showed that media framing migrants went from indifference to compassion and sometimes fear. In both British and Romanian media, there was a difference of approach of migrants and refugees, mainly Ukrainian refugees. There was a clearly wave of sympathy towards the Ukrainian refugees, mainly Romanian. And in opposition, the attitude towards people from more distant areas like Asia or Africa was more reserved, to say the least. While Ukrainians were perceived and presented as close, as European, as culturally and socially similar, all the other migrants were perceived rather dangerous, risky, or at least too different to try to understand. So we think that this difference in representation probably explains the high interaction of reporters with Ukrainian refugees and the distance that they took from Afro-Asian migrants. Thank you.